Hey guys, my name's Storm. I'm joining you at Lake Kittamakundi in Columbia, Maryland. You guys might know me from the 3 summers I've spent so far on staff at Camp Conowingo as both a nature manager and a unit counselor. And then I have another friendly Girl Scout face joining us, which is Owl on the camera. Hello. She does a lot of different stuff in the Girl Scout world. If I listed it, we would be here all day. And we're actually in the backyard of our house right now, so we're making sure to stay following Maryland's stay-at-home order right now, going out for our daily exercise. Make sure you guys are staying home because we have all these cool videos and badges to work on. Okay, so today I wanted to help you guys work on your Eco Trekker Cadet level badge. So I'm going to just start by telling you a bit what the badge is about, going over the steps with you, and we'll circle back to this at the end when we're reviewing. So, like I said, we're going to do the Eco Trekker badge, which has a lot to do with getting out in your neighborhood and doing a trek that has to do with ecosystems, making sure you're being environmentally sustainable, helping the world around you. And our focus today is clearly the water, since like I said, we're at Lake Kittamakundi, which I'll be sure to tell you guys all about later. So to let you guys know, we're going to be doing steps 1 through 4 today, and then you're going to do step 5 at home yourself. So for step 1, we're going to learn how to make minimal impact on a trek. And when we get started, we're going to end up interviewing me, an experienced outdoor enthusiast, and I'll tell you guys about Leave No Trace and let you ask me questions. Then for step number 2, we're going to plan an eco trek with a purpose, which by following it, we're going to visit a water source or a water treatment facility, and we're going to talk about conservation, and we're going to do a trail hike. Then for step number 3, we're going to be doing 2 things actually, so a little 2 for 1. We're going to look at what durable means, identify some durable surfaces, some non-durable surfaces on our hike. We're also going to be learning how to purify water using, I think, 4 different methods, which is kind of crazy. So that'll be a really exciting process to go through with you guys. And then for step number 4, the last one that we're going to be doing, we're going to learn how to make a difference in our eco trek. So I'll talk to you about some problems that plague water systems in our area as well as all over the world. And together maybe we'll be able to brainstorm some solutions. And then step 5, like I said, is not going to be covered in this video, so it's up to you guys to finish it off. And for step 5, what you have to do is make a difference on your eco trek. So the ways you can do this, according to the badge book, are to make a video of your trek, kind of like the one I'm doing right now. You could also make an art installation, or you can create an awareness campaign. And these are all ways that you can do the final step to complete your badge. Isn't that awesome? Okay. So I think now is a great time to start our hike. I'll be going through some of the intro stuff as we go. I think we'll start by covering Leave No Trace, yeah? Let's go. So we're actually off the trail right now because we want to give you guys a good shot of the water near a bench, but we are going onto the designated trail because that's an important thing in Leave No Trace that we'll get to really soon. So what's important to know about Leave No Trace is there are 7 principles, and you're going to learn all of them right here today. It's really important to know these principles anytime you're doing any outdoor activity. It's your job as a Girl Scout to share these with your friends. So, principle number 1 is know before you go. Principle number 1 has a lot to do with planning before you go out. You want to make sure that you have all the right things, which after you go with principles, I'll show you how I did those. But, that's making sure you know where you're going, that you're bringing all the things you need, so you're not put in any hard situations. In front of you. Backwards. Okay. And principle number 2 is travel and walk on durable surfaces. So like I said, if we look at our feet, we're actually walking on a designated path right now. You don't want to be walking around in the brush creating new paths because that's damaging for wildlife, and that's why we have all these great paths for us to use. Right now we are on a fantastic walking trail that goes all the way around our local lake. So, principle number 3 is trash your trash. Pretty self-explanatory. Anything you bring out with you in the wilderness or outside to your local park, you want to make sure that you're taking back with you, pack it in, pack it out, because pollution is very detrimental to our environment, and it also just doesn't look great, and we want to have beautiful outdoor spaces for everybody to enjoy. Then, number 4 is take only pictures, leave only footprints. That means that you don't want to be taking things from outside home with you, right? You can't be picking up flowers, you can't be picking up stones, and there's lots of reasons for this. Reason number 1 You could be destroying an animal's habitat. Maybe you found like a really cool stone, but there's like a family of ants that lives under it. So moving that stone's gonna ruin their family, of course. Or you pick the last flower and then nobody can enjoy those flowers because you thought it was so pretty, you wanted to take it home. You took that opportunity from somebody else. So like I said, that's principle number 4. Principle number 5 is to be careful with fire. We're not going to be doing any fires today for clear, obvious reasons. But if you are somewhere we're going to be doing a fire, you want to make sure you're doing it in a designated spot, like a fire circle. You want to make sure that you always have an adult with you. You want to make sure you always have a bucket of water before you start, and there always do leave no trace fires because you know the heat can destroy roots and other things under the ground. So you put down aluminum foil, and I won't go too far into fires. You know, keep your hair tied back. There's all sorts of stuff, and that can make an entire another video. But number 5 is to be careful with fires. Number 6, I need both hands for this hand motion. But number 6 is to respect wildlife. So see, I got 3 in their ears, like wildlife. And then this is actually a fun little rule where I'm holding my thumb out because the rule is any wildlife, you have to be far enough away that you can actually cover them up entirely with your thumb. And that's, you know, to keep you safe and to keep them safe. And you get, for instance, a lot closer to like a little ant on the ground than you could get to a grizzly bear, right? Because yeah, like you could get hurt by a grizzly bear, but also you could disrupt the ant's habitat. So it's to protect you and to protect them, of course. And then last of all, we come to number 7, which is be considerate of other visitors. So you've probably seen on my hike, lots of people walking by looking at me like I'm crazy. Fun times. But you know, we're still making sure to be very considerate of them. I'm trying my hardest not to scream. We're getting over to the side of the path when anyone walks by or any sort of bikes. Because also we're practicing social distancing. We love that, super important. So yeah, and you can follow this in all sorts of ways when you're going camping or going on hikes in local areas. Again, you don't want to be too loud. You don't want to get into people's faces. It's important to remember we're all sharing this space and we have to do the best we can. Okay guys, so now we're going to take a little pause. I'm just going to go off the path slightly to get out of people's ways, but not far enough that I'll be damaging anything, to show you guys how we actually prepared for Leave No Trace on our own track. So we made sure to know before we started. So I actually looked up a bunch of stuff about this hike before I went, and we'll talk much more about Lake Kittamakundi later when we get to the part where we talk about planning our eco trek. But like I said, we're at Lake Kittamakundi in Columbia, Maryland. I already knew how long it was around. I made sure to get a picture of a map that I'll pull up for you. That way we can make sure not to get lost on our trek. It is a screenshot, so bear with me. I actually went to alltrails.com. It's just like an easy loop we're doing, I think 1.4 miles. But let's take a look at what we got in the bag. Most important thing is a full bottle of water, which I will stop to take a drink of right now because staying hydrated is super important. And we could even play a water drinking game. Excuse me, Al, can you pick a word that you are going to spell while I drink the water, and then I'll spell it while we pretend you drink water because you can't while you're holding a camera.
I just heard a goose, so I'm going to say goose.
Okay, can you spell goose for me?
G-O-O-S-E.
Refreshing. And then I'd spell it for Al. G-O-O-S-E. Great drinking game to play with your friends. Make sure everybody's super hydrated and taking more than just a little sip. But, so yeah, I have my water with me. And then I also have snacks if need be. I brought sunflower seeds and a protein bar. Important things to bring out with you if we decide we get hungry. We always want to be super prepared. And then, like any Girl Scout trip, we always need to have our full first aid kit. And this has all the fixins. You got your Band-Aids, you got, you know, an ice pack that can be activated easily. Anything for any emergency you might encounter. Also, there are people that know we're out on this hike right now. Whenever you're going on an outdoor adventure, you need to make sure somebody at home knows. So we have somebody at home that will be expecting us back very soon. Then, the rest of our supplies in here are actually for something we'll be doing later, which is water purification. So I won't tell you everything about what they are now. We got some like bottles for purifying. We got a gravity bag. And we also have my Sawyer Life straw. So, like I said, we made sure that we knew what kind of adventure we were going on and brought everything that we would need for that adventure. And that's how we're following that. Number 2, staying safe on durable surfaces, making sure we travel on them. We are staying on a designated path, and we only just stepped off to get out of people's way because we're being considerate and caring of other visitors. Oh, wait, number 3, I need to show you the trash bag we brought. Number 3 is trash or trash. So we actually have a trash bag in case we find any trash on the trail. We'll make sure to bring it back with us in addition to our own trash, because a Girl Scout always leaves a place better than they found it. So if we see any trash, well, you guys know this is a very nice maintained trail, so we might not find anything. Okay, we'll get started walking. We'll talk about the rest. And then number 4, we talked about before, is take only pictures, leave only footprints. We're obviously taking a whole video, so there's no reason to worry about that one. 5, be careful with fire. We're not going to be building any sort of fire today. 6, respecting wildlife. We actually have a lot of wildlife here. I don't know if you can see, but there's like a cute little duck in the river adjacent to the lake right now. And let's see, are we thumb distance away? Oh wow, my thumb's really big. Where is it? Okay. Yep, I would say we could cover it up with our thumb. So good job, guys. And we're making sure, of course, not to feed the wildlife or disturb them in any way. But we can say hi to the duck, and let's name the duck. Submit the best names for the duck name below this video. I think I'm going to say Emerald Feather. I feel like that's a very fun name. Emerald Feather it is. And then, of course, number 7, being considerate of other visitors, which I already talked to you guys about before, even though they probably think we're crazy because we're out here recording this awesome video for you guys. We're still making sure not to bother them in any way, to give them as much space as they need for social distancing and their own comfort, and to keep our volume down, which is important to do to respect the people around us. So, congratulations, guys. We've already completed step number 1 of the Eco Tracker badge. Okay, guys, and we've gone over a bit so far, so before we start the next part of our video, I'm just going to take a second to give us a moment or two of silence, because in addition to the beautiful scenery that you're getting to see on this video, you're missing out on a lot of the great sounds that are being drowned out by my voice, and it's important when we're in nature to make sure we listen to the nature. You're going to miss out on the smells and, like tactile sensations, but try to create as good of a picture for you guys as we can. So, I'm just going to stop talking and take a second to just listen to what kind of sounds you're hearing on this hike. You can note them down. You can comment them below. As many comments as you want. We love interaction. It's important for you guys to earn this badge. In addition to that, if you have any questions about Leave No Trace, you can take this pause in the video to make sure to ask your questions, because part of earning this badge in step number 1 is to interview the outdoor enthusiast. So if you ask any questions, me or even each other can come in and answer them for you. Ready, set, moment of silence. How about I get started with talking to you guys about step number 2 for our badge, which has to do with planning your trek with a purpose. Because this isn't just a hiker badge, this isn't a trail badge, this is for eco treks. So you want to make sure that the walk you're going on, the trek, the adventure has some sort of connection to ecology, the environment, has a purpose, has to do with sustainability and protection, which on my side is about educating you guys. But anyways, so let me talk to you guys a little bit about the lakes. The point of our eco trek is to learn about Lake Kinamakundi and its connection with local conservation, some of the issues it faces because of human influence, and what we can do to help. It's actually a man-made lake. It was created around the same time as Columbia itself in 1966 by the Rouse Company, which is a company that had by the Rouse Company, which is a company that had a lot to do with Columbia's construction itself. Later on our hike, we'll actually see a statue of 2 men that had huge roles in the Rouse Company, which is right on the Lake Kinamakundi waterfront. And then the lake itself is actually a tributary, taking water that inflows from Wild Lake into Little Patuxent River. So it's a little stopway between the two. It was actually named after the first Native American settlement in Howard County, and which translates to meeting place in their local language, although others say that it was a 17th century Piscataway village 40 miles south, named after its ruler, which translated to Great Beaver Place or Strong Bear. So it definitely has a few different etymologies. Not sure if there are more. Feel free to share if you know more about Lake Kittamaqundi, because I will say I am not an expert. I looked up a lot of this stuff for you guys today, so I'm sure many of you know more than me, and it's great to have places like this to share our knowledge. Get back to our regularly scheduled program. Talk a little bit about environmental issues at Lake Kittamaqundi, although we won't fully cover them because we want to explore the issues and do solutions at the end of the video. So, to talk a little bit about now, some of the main issues that plague Lake Kittamaqundi are pollution and flooding, actually. Flooding is a huge issue. You know, as with lots of lakes, especially man-made lakes, there aren't really some of the stop gates needed to solve some of the flooding issues. I'm actually going to show you guys some pictures of flooding that happened in 2018, so you can stop for a second. I'll show those to you. So we have this one. And that was the bridge we were on earlier. Completely covered in water with rapids. It's a video that we don't need to watch to get an idea of the picture. But yeah, that's crazy. Imagine the water from that rising up that high. And flooding can have a lot of detrimental consequences for humans living in nearby areas and also other parts of the environment, because plants get overwatered, parts of the soil get washed away, it damages the stream beds. And in those floodings in particular, there are people's houses that were flooded, basements destroyed, and you know, the water was also just soppy and wet for quite some time. So that's a big issue. The last time the lake was actually dredged was in 2010. So that's 10 years ago, right? Don't know if dredging the solution or if stop gates for flooding is. We'll talk more about solutions later. But yeah, in 2010, it was dredged back to its original depth. They reinforced the banks, and they actually created 2 new peninsulas. And normally, the floods in this area are just caused simply by heavy rains, because there are lots of lakes, and this lake, as you can see, is pretty full, probably only about a foot or two below the water bank, so it doesn't really give it a lot of time and area to rise up in the case of heavy rains. So like I said, right now we'll talk about issues and we'll talk about solutions later. So big one is flooding. The other really big one for Lake Kittamaqundi is pollution. As you guys saw across, and we can even look again, there is a lot of development. We have people building right now, because Columbia is a very big area for development. We have the mall, we have the lakefront, we have Whole Foods, who is also constructing a new park right next to it, like a playground. And, you know, all the visitors that come down to this area. And while there's no direct sources of pollution into Lake Kittamaqundi, like nobody has a pipe coming out of their factory, things still end up in the water, whether that's from visitors accidentally throwing their trash in the water during like paddle boat season. In the spring, there are tons of paddle boats on the lake. It's a great time. Or, you know, people out down here fishing or having a great time with their families. But then the other huge problem is not only do the rainwaters create flooding at the lake, they also bring down pollution, because, you know, the water falls and it carries the pollution downwards and downwards, especially when you're dealing with impervious surfaces. There are 2 kinds of surfaces. Impervious, the one we're walking on right now, which means that water cannot penetrate it, so it just keeps running off of it. There's nothing to help stop that pollution from going. There's nothing to soak it up. And there are pervious surfaces, like the grass and the mud, because like you guys know, it sops it up like a sponge, which is why it's really important in areas like this to make sure there is a lot of grass, a lot of like dirt, rain gardens, and you don't want to have lots of passages. What is great about this area, because Columbia is very environmentally conscious, even though we're on the path right now, you can see that there's like 15 feet, maybe a little less, of grass and trees and stuff to get to the lake. And then on the other side of the lake too, oh, look at the flowers, so pretty. And then on the other side of the lake too, if you look by the dock and the fishing area, you'll actually see that there's a big green grassy hill right above it, which is important because when those rainwaters happen, that's the area that is bringing down the pollution. That's the runoff. But since there's that big grassy area, that luckily does catch a lot of it because, like I said, that's a pervious surface and it's able to soak it up really well. But despite that, of course, there's still issues with pollution, and then figuring out how we solve those issues. Because like I said, this lake is a tributary. It's going to flow in to the Little Patuxent River, which is then going to carry it even farther into other bodies of water, and we want to make sure to protect from that before we end up with things like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which I'm sure you guys have heard about. You know, lots of trash in the ocean. Really not great. We don't like that. So, again, that's why we have principles on leave no trace, like trash your trash, and there are other solutions to that, which we can get into a little bit later. And of course, while I'm talking specifically about Lake Kittamakandi and what affects this lake on our eco track, because it's important to start small, these are problems that literally are everywhere. Any body of water, there are issues with flooding, there are issues with pollution, and like, at least we don't have too many direct sources of pollution, and a lot of it is just, you know, from like visitors and stuff coming down with runoff, but there are things where like factories are polluting, or cruise ships are polluting, or other huge businesses and companies and organizations. So our lake is actually still in pretty good shape and is fairly lucky, which is not the case for every body of water, which is why it's super important for us to protect those bodies of water. Super, incredibly important. Yeah. And I'm glad we're talking about water today, because as some of you, it was actually World Water Day. I know that there wasn't a lot of observance going on and celebration and events because of everything we've been dealing with globally. I believe it was March 22nd. World Water Day is a day of observance that is created and held by the UN, and each year there's a different theme to focus on with water. I believe last year it had to do with communities and access, like who's getting access to clean water, who isn't, and how we bridge that gap. And then this year the focus was actually water and its connection to climate change, which is crucial and is definitely a conversation that we should be having and something we should be talking about. Because water is not only something that is majorly affected by climate change. You know, you hear about the melting of the polar ice caps, thermal expansion in the water, rising sea levels, acid rain, pollution, tsunamis, definitely affected by the water. Definitely effects that hurt the water in our areas. But also the water can be a lot of ways to solve climate change. There's a lot we can do to use water to our benefit by, yeah, creating more access to different communities, making sure we have nice, healthy water sources in our own communities. So not only is water heavily affected by climate change, but it also could be the key to solving it, and that's a lot about what World Water Day this year talked about. So if you do want to look at that more, just look up, I think it's just worldwaterday.org online. There's a lot of great information there, which could help you later on for step 5. So, with that, my hands are cold. We have just completed step number 2. Amazing. Round of applause for that, because we talked about conservation, we talked about quality efforts, and we're on our eco track that we planned with a purpose of education. Isn't that great? So now that we're done with that step, we can again just take a little time to look at how our scenery has changed and just kind of walk for a bit. Because while listening to me, I'm sure is a load of fun, it would be much more fun to just be enjoying this hike. Oh look, we even have a measurement tool. a great thing to do in regards to, like I was saying, there is an issue with flooding that you can actually measure how high the water is risen. So when you're doing statistical studies to find solutions for issues like flooding with information to back it up and things that can help us succeed in the future, because, you know, to tackle a problem, we need to know what the problem is. We need to know how it's changed over time, because you guys have heard, I'm sure, the term like 100-year flood. So tons of places have 100-year floods, which means that they're only supposed to happen about every 100 years. But circling back to climate change, with climate change and some of the anthropogenic word of the day, that is human influence, anthropogenic influences on the environment, a lot of that is changing, and we're having 100-year floods like every 10 years, every 20 years, which is absolutely insane. But again, it's good that we know about these things, because to solve the problem, like the measurement tool shows us, we have to learn about the problem first. We have to recognize it first. So anyways, we'll do at least a moment of silence till we get across this bridge, and I'll interrupt you again. So just enjoy the hike. And to interrupt you guys again, we can take a look at what's in front of us. Like any good Girl Scout, we want to notice what we have at our disposal. We have these biodegradable pickup mitts for your dogs, which is super awesome. It means that the local homeowners association and other areas that help take charge over this lake in the community are noticing that there are issues with, like, people picking up waste from their dog and leaving the bags. So they're making sure not only to provide those bags so we don't have as much animal waste, which can mess with chemicals in the water, but that they have, a bag to put it in, so they can put it in the trash and recycling, which I pointed to, we're not going over there yet. But yeah, it's over there. So, great way of seeing a problem and solving it from the Columbia Association. We love that. And then we also make sure to pay attention to our signs, because those help give us directions. And we should always make sure to read signs in our hike. Pass with care, yield to person running, person rollerblading, person on bike with helmet. Love helmets, don't know why the rollerblader is not wearing them. Also person walking at a slower gait, you can tell because their knees aren't quite as bent. Somebody in a wheelchair, somebody with a cane, and somebody with a stroller. All super important. And then if we cross over again, we have some more super helpful signs. A lot of these tell us what's in the area and how far away it is in miles, systems of measurement. So we have like Oakland Millfield Center, Blandare Park, we have a Lakefront Plaza, we have Whole Foods, which is 0.1 miles away. I think we saw it from the other side of the lake. It's also like right over there. We have Downtown Columbia Trail, County Library, Central Woods, County Community College. All great things you can get to by walking on these trails. Love that interconnectedness. And like we pointed to before, we have our trash bin and our recycling bin. So you make sure on your trails is about the halfway point, depending on where you start, you have somewhere to throw out the stuff you've been carrying. Because it's important as the visitors that we make sure we trash our trash and we make sure to follow these principles. But at the same time, it's also the responsibility of your communities to make sure you have somewhere to put this stuff. Because it is inconvenient. Ooh, I found trash. Look at that. Look at that trash. I'm going to zoom in on that little buddy. It's ironic too, we saw a trash bin. But in case we find more, I'm not going to throw it out in the bin yet. I'll just put it in our bag. Because, we might find more. And we don't want to waste it. Wait, more trash. Oh no, we lost that piece of trash. Okay. I think we got it. Yeah. I'll let you guys know if finding more trash. Is that trash? No, that's like a decaying pea pod. That was a challenge on a counselor bingo recently for Conway Indoor. It was like, have you ever picked up nature thinking it was trash? Yes, I do all the time. But, hey, at least you're looking. At least we're thinking about it. We want to stay conscious. Wow, there's a lot of trash on this part. This is a wrapper. That's not good. We don't like trash on our trails. But again, it's great when you have good Girl Scouts who care about the environment out here making sure to clean up and notice things. That's why it's good to keep your eyes open, pay attention, do it for your safety, we do it to enjoy the park, and we do it to help the environment. So, like I said, we're coming up on the developed part of Columbia, and since our hike is eco-focused, and I really don't have that many things to talk about, I think we're going to try to do some video magic and create like a cute little traveling montage. I'll sing a few songs in case that doesn't work out, or you'll just hear me going really fast, going like, what's a song? I am peanut butter, and you are jelly. And we're so happy to have a little piece of bread, so we'll just see how that goes, yeah? Cool. Come on, let's go. Oh, we'll see the Roust Company.
Roust.
Roust Company statues. Let's make sure you guys know the difference between the two, which can be considered step 3 of the badge, but we're also going to do water purification. This is a little 2 for 1, right? Okay, so for step 3, you have to identify durable surfaces, and you can even bring a map and note areas that might be compromised. So, durability. A lot of people tend to think that durability means something strong, like you stepping on it won't cause it to break, right? So like, this dock is durable, but some people think if it had holes in it, it wouldn't be considered a durable surface. But for our purposes and leave no trace, durability is more about whether or not you're going to hurt the object by stepping on it. The object, the animal, the grass, etc. So a lot of, pretty much all man-made surfaces like wooden docks or the gravel path we're about to go on would be considered durable, because if I step on this wood, if I stomp on it, I can't hurt that wood. You know what I mean? But if you're using living surfaces, like take these dandelions right here. I'm not actually going to step on them, but if I were to, that would ruin the flower. It would kill it. So therefore, that surface wouldn't be durable. Oh, we have some more bins. Another great Columbia Association thing to combat pollution. This is for recycling. This is for recycling your used fishing line. No cans, bottles, or trash. Which is great, because again, kind of like the thing for dog waste, they noticed that there was an issue in the community with the dock. There tends to be a lot of people to come fish here, and maybe some of them had been leaving their lines. Maybe there was an issue that this would be being pulled up a lot when they were actually looking at the lake for pollution. So they decided to implement this, which is probably a fantastic solution. I can't quite see inside of it, but I'm sure there's stuff in there. I think it might be scary to look in. Can you see? Oh well. Pretty close. And we have both our trash and our recycling. Maybe we'll get to a day, one day, when we have a compost bin everywhere. That would be exciting. You know, 10 years from now, when you see this video, you're going to be like, what is he talking about? There are compost things everywhere. That would be crazy. Wow, that lost my train of thought. Durable surfaces. But again, that's awesome. I love looking at those things. So like I said, man-made surfaces like gravel paths, wooden docks, concrete sidewalks are all durable. Yes, it is safe for you to walk on, but also you're not going to physically hurt that surface because it doesn't have, you know, any sort of life system for you to hurt, whereas walking on flowers, walking on soil that's filled with bugs, like cryptobiotic soil, walking through any sort of garden, or even walking on like a pile of chipmunks. All those things would be pretty much hurt by you trampling on them. As you see, there are a lot of fallen down trees in this area. Not really fallen down, they have been cut down. But later on when we get to it, I'll show you a note from the Columbia Association on why these trees have been cut down, so don't get too worried yet. Oh, we also found a can. But it's a can, so we'll make sure to pick that up. Super safe with the bag, since it might have germs on it. We don't want to get our hands dirty. And the wrapper. Good Girl Scouts. So, there's quite a few different cool things we can see with these trees. First, we look at this pattern here, which, as we'll see later on from the Columbia Association, proves that there are actually some sort of insect infestation that were in these trees. You see these lines, these aren't natural, but come through from termites and other bugs that eat away at the wood. And then also things you can see in those trees, you can look at this one over here. I'm sure you guys have heard about this before, but if we look really close, we can actually see rings on the tree, going out from the center all the way out. And you can use these rings to measure how old the tree is, because roughly each ring equals about 1 year. And the rings can tell you a few different things that I'm not fully an expert on, despite being the nature manager at Camp Conowingo for 2 years. But they can tell us how good the rain has been that year, whether the tree's gone through any other hardships, like a lack of sunlight, depending on how close or how far apart they are. Of course, if they're farther apart, that means a lot better things. That means the tree's growing at a huge rate, whereas if they're small, really close together, the tree doesn't really have a lot of opportunity to grow, whether or not it's getting the right nutrients, the right water, something's going on with the roots. So this one in general seems to be fairly uniform, but still a lot stronger at the beginning, which also makes sense because as a tree's young, it does grow a lot quicker. So it's more telling when you look at some of the older rings on the tree. But that was a fun little education about trees in case any of you guys want to do your own eco trek that has to do primarily with trees. Fun stuff. And yeah, we'll just get right back on our hike, and you'll continue to see in this area fallen down trees and other cool outdoor exercise equipment, because it is important to make sure that we are getting outside, even though again in times like these we don't want to be using community equipment, so people shouldn't be using them, they're shut down. But in normal times, as long as you make sure to sanitize it, to sanitize your hands, it's a great way to stay active if you don't have the resources to use something like a gym, or even if you do, it's a lot better to make sure you're being active outside with fresh air, gorgeous nature. Elevates your mood and your spirits. I can speak from experience, working outside all summer is fantastic. I think this is actually one of the Columbia Association updates. Actually, we have a better one coming up where I think it's actually facing the trail and not away from it. So yeah, if we come here, we can see this sign, which reads, "We're taking care of the environment. Columbia Association recently removed dying and damaged trees in this area. As part of the Columbia Association sustainability practices, we will be reusing these logs for nearby stream restoration projects. For more information, please call 410-321-6330 or email openspace.resourcesrequest@columbiaassociation.org. So this is going to be part of step 3, which is find a source of water and purify it when you get home. I'm not going to do it when we get home because it's more fun to do it out here, and it's part of our eco trip. And we have the supplies with us, so that should be fun. So again, knowing how to purify water is super important for tons of different reasons of situations you could be in. For a lot of Girl Scouts, we're spending a lot of time out on trails and camping. And on a lot of trails, you might not actually have the opportunity to have clean, safe drinking water. And many of them you do, but if you're doing backcountry camping, then you might not. So you always want to make sure you have a way. And there are tons of different ways to purify our water. We have, in addition to if you're out in the woods and on some sort of trail, you also might be in a community that's having a water crisis or some sort of water problems. So it's important that you always have some sort of backup, because as Girl Scouts, we like to be prepared, and we always want to be prepared for those situations, because we definitely know they do happen from crises that we've seen around our own country and in other countries in recent years. So we have a few different methods that we're going to deal with today. Like I said, we have a gravity bag made by Sawyer. We have a Sawyer squeeze filter that attaches to a water bottle. And then we have some more classic options. We have bleach, and we have iodine. That is 4 different options that all similarly will filter out bacteria and protozoa from our water. So that protects us from cholera, what other water? Typhoid is that?
Gardia.
Typhoid. Lots of waterborne illnesses. Dysentery. And in addition to these ways, so a lot of them will also filter out, larger things like dirt and leaves, but an easy way you can do that at home before starting a lot of these filter processes is just taking some sort of clean, sanitized cloth that's very tightly woven together, and running your water through that, and that should catch small particles. You can use bandanas, which are multi-use, or even buffs. So there are a lot of options with that. So before I talk about each thing, I'm going to collect water, but I guess I will explain bleach first, because to be prepared and use our resources wisely, we put our drops of bleach in here early, so you didn't have to carry an entire thing of bleach. And each of these containers are about a quart, just for reference, and a liter. What?
Liter.
Well, I think quart and liter, like, equal. You know, well, they're using, like, the metric system, so it makes sense, and it doesn't. But there are lots of different methods of measurement to use around the world, and we have options. But each of these are about a liter, and I guess I can explain it as we're doing it. So we're going to start with our bottle that has 2 drops of bleach in it. So you're supposed to use 2 drops of bleach for every 1 quart of water. And
Drops
then you have
or
to
like
make
a
sure,
tablespoon?
What?
Was it drops or was it like a tablespoon?
According to the EPA, it said drops.
Okay. Sorry.
Also, all of the information I'm sharing with you about water purification came either from the EPA, which you can find their website, or it came from Sawyer, who provided not provided, I'm not like an Instagram model, but who we own filtration devices from.
Storm, what does EPA stand for?
EPA actually stands for the Environmental Protection Agency, which is a federal government agency that works to protect our environment. It was actually created in about the 1970s after the river fire on the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio. I know about that because I go to school in Cleveland, Ohio. Fun fact. But yeah, and the 50th anniversary was actually last year, so we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the river burning, and it started the EPA. So, you know, sometimes really bad things have to happen for great things to rise out of it. So that's what we love about humanity and changing the world. So yeah, the EPA does a lot to help protect our environment and send out regulations. And one of the things that they do is also provide information about purifying water in national crises, and that's where I got a lot of this information from. So to start with, number 1, we're going to be learning how to purify with bleach, which, like I said, is about 2 drops per 1 quart of water. You want to make sure you're using regular bleach, unscented, chlorine bleach with no added cleaners, and you don't want to be color safe. And you can always filter the water before if it is cloudy with this method. Like I said, you can use your buff or a bandana or a t-shirt. And yeah, so I'm going to fill this one up, and I'll also, just to be efficient, fill up our other bottles and things too. Maybe I'll also use movie magic to like fast forward this so it's not just you watching me like awkwardly try to get water into these.
Or that might be fun to watch.
Oh yeah, or it might be fun. So, we already have our water bottle of bleach. So that is currently working through the filtration process with bleach after you, again, have your 1 quart or liter of water and you add your about 2 drops. Then you want to stir it and let it sit for 30 minutes. And after it's done, you should make sure it has a slight odor of chlorine. And if it doesn't, then you might want to like filter through, maybe add 1 or 2 more drops. There are more details on the EPA website. And let's see, next we can do iodine. For your iodine, you want to have 5 drops of 2% tincture iodine for each quart or liter. And similar to our bleach method, if it's cloudy, you might want to make sure to filter it first in a t-shirt. Our water seems pretty nice, even though it was from a very like weird part of the lake. So good for Lake Kittamukundee's water quality. We love that. So yeah, I'm gonna open one of these up. Yeah, and actually if it's cloudy or colored, you can also add 10 drops of iodine too. And similar to the chlorine, you're gonna stir it and let it sit for 30 minutes. So we're gonna do our 5 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. Close up our container of iodine, put it back in our Ziploc bag. put our cap on and we'll shake it a little bit. Again, ideally you have some sort of stirring device, but right now we're just kind of doing it for educational purposes, so not everything is exactly as perfect as it could be. So we now have our bleach and our iodine. Probably our most basic methods, things you can easily have in your house, part of emergency preparedness kits. Again, could be a whole nother video on that, but super important to have things for emergencies, like our first aid kit. You want to make sure you have things for first aid, you want to have some food, you want to have some supplies, like things to purify water in your house in case some sort of emergency happens. Yeah, so next I think we'll do our most technical method, which is our Sawyer gravity bag. It uses a hollow fiber filter to again filter out bacteria and protozoa. So it's in this fun bag, and I will say this isn't my personal one, this is Owl's. So we'll see how silly I look trying to set it up. She did show me very quickly before this, so I can't fault her on that one. Okay, so.
Don't take the clean water bag down to the water.
Well, I'm not going to take it because I have the bottle. Well, I guess the bottle is supposed to put the clean. Anyways, we have two different bags. We have our green-gray one that says, no beba. Just kidding. It says, well, that's a translation. It's in some different languages. We're multicultural. It says, do not drink. So you know that your dirty water is in this bag and your clean water is going to go in the other bag, so you know to keep them separate, that it's clearly marked. So after I get it set up, I'm going to pour our bottle of dirty water into our dirty bag. We're going to hang it at a higher elevation and then use this filter device that will connect to both of the bags to filter into the lower bag.
Gray to gray, blue to blue.
Gray to gray, blue to blue. So obvious, nobody can mess it up. Okay, cool. So I will first hook them up. All of these methods have different pros and different cons because you might need your water filtered for different purposes. Like we said, there might be that there are large particles in your water, like dirt or leaves, you need to filter that out. It could be that, yeah, you're trying to get rid of protozoa and you're trying to get rid of bacteria. There could be other pathogens or bacteria
or you're doing it for a large group or for one person
inside of your water, or it could also be less about the water and more about you and the people you're with. It could be an issue of time. Like we said, we have to wait probably the longest for our bleach and iodine. That's 30 minutes. Our gravity bag, although I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. Might take longer than that. I don't know, Owl, how long does the gravity bag normally take? Unsure, because the beauty about the gravity bag is you just kind of hang it up on a tree normally. You don't have to sit and pay attention to it. We're holding it right now because there aren't really any good places around us that we can hang it up in a leave no trace manner. But the positive on that is it filters a lot of water at once, so you can help not liquidate, you can't liquidate people.
Hydrate.
You can help hydrate a large number of people, which is really great, whereas then our final option, the Sawyer squeezable filter.
Sawyer squeeze.
The Sawyer squeeze, which is mine, so I should know the name of it. The Sawyer squeeze really can only be used for one person hygienically because it's just a water bottle and a little filter that you attach to your water bottle and drink out of. But it's probably the fastest since it actually filters it as you're drinking it, which I can show you guys. And I know I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Storm, you just got that water out of the lake. You are not about to drink that. But that's the beauty of it. This actually purifies your water, because what's the point of all these great water purification practices if we just teach about them? We can't actually prove that they work. Plus, long story short, this semester I was studying abroad in India, and I use this thing all the time since most drinking water in India, well, most water in India, like tap water, your faucets, is not safe to drink, so you actually have to have filters within your home, which I had within my apartment, but then also when I traveled, I would bring this with me because while you are encouraged to buy water bottles, I didn't really like the idea of wasting a lot of plastics. Anyways, I'll stop talking and get drinking. Like I said, you can attach this to the water bottle that comes with your Sawyer squeeze, or you can attach it to pretty much any other normal mouth water bottle. It screws right on, and it has a, I'm just checking on the word so I don't misquote it. It has a hollow fiber filter and membrane, and it is BPA free. So it's, again, filtering out all the same stuff as the other one, and it has a similar type filter set up as our gravity bag. And you would just put your mouth on it and you suck the water through. You want to make sure to clean it regularly so it has a similar flow rate. But yeah, cheers. Yum. So now you've seen pretty much all of our methods. I think we can check on our gravity bag filter. There is some water in here, so I can prove to you that it's doing things. So do you see there? Fresh water. And remember, when you're dealing with water bottles that have iodine or bleach and you've actually dipped the water bottle in a source of water that isn't pure, you have to remember that on this top part where you're going to put it in your mouth, it's not sanitized since you had it in the dirty water. So what you're going to have to do is, before you open it up, you're going to turn your water bottle upside down, open up the cap just a little bit so your purified water with the iodine or bleach actually fills the cap up and gets all over the part you're going to put your mouth on, and then you just screw it back up so that way it actually sanitizes that part. So we're just going to do that really quickly for both of our water bottles. And there you go. Now we'll just let them sit and we'll wait. I think we could say that we're successful on step number 3. And now we're left off to the last one that you're doing here with me today, which is make a difference on your eco track. And we're going to do that by exploring a water issue. So we explored a little bit earlier when we talked about planning our trek with a purpose, flooding, and pollution. So I covered most of that then. But we also want to record some solutions and think about those critically. Because again, it's one thing, like we said, first we have to identify the problem, we have to learn about it. But then we want to make sure we're also solving it too. It doesn't really help to record, this is how much pollution's in our lake. This is what's happening, if we're not doing anything helpful with that information. And we always want to make sure we are. So for instance, at least what we know about Lake Pettimacundi with pollution, we talked about the source that comes from earlier nearby developments and water runoff from storms. We also actually have numbers from a 2008 survey, which I got from researching online, which showed that there was actually 55,558 pounds of solid and 250 pounds of phosphorus pollution that were collected in the lake that year, which is a lot. It's an incredible number. But since they took that survey, they made plans, according to the document I was looking at, to recommend a $6.3 million stormwater retention project. So that's one of the ways that they solved that problem. That's a really big solution, but we can also think about little solutions that we can do in our own lives. So when it comes to pollution around the lake, as somebody who lives by here, I can think about things I'd make sure to do. For instance, we have certain days that our trash and recycling goes out. So making sure you only put it out on that day, right before they take it, so that way there isn't as much chance for there to be any water that brings it down to the lake. That's a big one, watching like when you bring out your trash. Also when you're out on a trail, like principle number 3 of leave no trace, trash your trash. You don't want to be leaving things on the trail. You can even, if you have a bag and it's safe, you have gloves or something, you could be picking up trash as you're walking to do your part, and things like that will help combat pollution, making sure you're putting things in the right bin. Normally, most places have a trash bin and a recycling bin. We want to make sure we know what goes in our recycling bins, whether it's just for paper, just for metal, and also noting that a lot of these, even though that says metal and plastic, you don't want it to have food waste on it. So if it does, it's something you need to bring home and wash off, because even though you might be doing the right thing putting it in there, it could contaminate the whole bin of recyclables, and that could be a bad thing. Or there's also compost, which you don't see as many opportunities for, but maybe you have a friend who has one in their house, or an organization like Camp Conowingo has their own compost bin, and normally that would take anything that can degrade back into the soil, anything biodegradable like orange peels and other fruit peels, vegetable waste, tea bags sometimes coffee filters, depending on the type of compost you have. So those are some different ways. If you have other ways, make sure to brainstorm it right below, because one of the ways you need to earn this badge is to interact with this video. So think of ways that you can help solve pollution near your local waterways, and even globally recommendations you can make to other people. In addition to pollution, something we didn't exactly talk about because it's more global and less specific to Lake Kimacundy is, again, Girl Scouts, we use our resources wisely. We want to do the same thing with our water. We don't want to waste water because it is a really valuable resource, and a lot goes into your locality filtering and perfecting, purifying the water that gets to your home. So making sure, for instance, when you brush your teeth, you turn off the tap while you're brushing. You don't want to let it run. Or the same thing, if you take a long time to condition your hair when you're in the shower, you could turn off the water while you're doing that. Washing your hands, if you're really lathering up that soap, the water doesn't need to be running while you're doing that. So doing that can help a lot. There are lots of resources online that looks into how much water is taken for a bath versus a shower, a dishwasher versus washing your dishes. So making responsible choices on how much water you need for the activity you're doing, because there's no need to waste a lot of it. And disposing of our water properly. Our water here, we're not going to just pour back into the lake now that it has things in it like bleach and iodine, which, while safe to drink, we don't want to mess with anything in the lake. We don't know what kind of impacts it could have. So we're going to bring it back to my house and dispose of it or drink it, because now it's purified properly. Also, I lost my train of thought. Important water things. Yeah, in general, we just want to make sure we're using our resources wisely, as it is our duty as global citizens and Girl Scouts to do so. And there's a lot more information that I don't need to cover now, but you can look up for yourselves online about how to use your resources wisely, including water, and you can comment ideas below. Since I gave you guys a few, I don't want to give them all away. You can comment a few of those below. And then for our last one, flooding, which we can continue to brainstorm solutions. There's not as many as you can do in your daily life yourself, except for maybe if you have the space in your backyard or some sort of community setting, making some sort of rain garden that has plants that, again, sop up all that water before the waste gets to your nearby waterway. But you can also, on the communities you're a part of, like your schools or your religious institutions, to make sure that they have areas like gardens that sop up this water, to make sure the banks of the river are high enough to control from flooding. So there are lots of different resources you can use to make change when it comes to water issues in your area. When it comes to flooding, when it comes to pollution, and when it comes to using our resources wisely in regards to water. And I love this yellow notepad. It's so much fun. That is step number 4. Make a difference on your eco trek. So make sure that you record below what sort of solutions you can also think of. Because again, now, even though I shared a few, this is your guys' badge. I am no longer a cadet. I cannot earn this myself. So I want to make sure you guys are interacting with this post as much as you can, despite it not being live. And comment on each other's ideas too. Maybe you live in the same area and you have the same idea that you could share at your school when school gets back in session. Or you could share with your local government or your homeowners association. So make sure to communicate below, as the big community we are in Girl Scouts Central Maryland, and whatever council and locality this video finds itself on. The great thing about the internet is we can use the videos our councils are making in the broader community, because it's great that all these Girl Scout councils are making all these virtual programs that we might as well pool resources and share, because that's the great thing about being in a sisterhood. So I just want to go over step number 5 again, because like I said, we're not completing that in this video. That is something you will have to do on your own. So if you find the resource of the badge description, which will be linked to this video, and also you could find on other mediums if you own the badge book yourself, the Cadette Eco Trekker badge. Step number 5 is make a difference after your eco trek. And you have 3 different ways that you can do this. You could make an educational video, like the one we're sending you, very similar to one. You could make an art installation. This could be things you find on your trek, maybe. Of course, practicing leave no trace. You'd be getting like dead leaves and sticks. You wouldn't want to be like killing any plants. Or it could just be a poem about what you've seen on your trek, or an interpretive painting, whatever you have your resources for. Or you could create an awareness campaign. So like I talked about, if you need inspiration, you can go to worldwaterday.org, and they have quite a few awareness campaign like flyers and posters about the connections between water and climate change that could give you some ideas to create your own. It could be about What are the bugs that were in the trees?
Emerald ash borer.
They could be about emerald ash borer's effect on trees. They could be about the pollution's effect on a waterway local near you. It could be about anything that's on the top of your mind, anything that's affecting your community. And then hopefully we'll all earn our Eco Trekker Cadet badge. Thank you guys for coming on this hike with me. It was a lot of fun, even though awkward at times. But I hope you guys were all amused. This was definitely a fun way to get out in my community. And I hope you guys can enjoy this the same. We can thank our camera person, Al, for helping us on this journey. And I'm excited to see your guys' comments below, how you want to interact with this material, and to see your guys' Eco Trekker badge on your vest or sash. See ya!